Today we're taking a look at these college basketball matches, which are happening on Saturday, March 4, 2023, and giving you our team and total picks for today. Welcome back to High Stakes. Before we dive into our video, don't forget to subscribe and push that notification bell to get notified as soon as we release these sport prediction videos, and make sure to watch it till the end so you don't miss any of our picks. Also check out our Patreon if you want access our premium picks. Our Patreon is a way for us to help you improve your chances of making more money. You will find the link in description and comments section below. One more thing before we start, check out our new channel High Stakes Props and Parlays, where you can find our player props and parlay picks predictions. You will find the link in the description and comments section below. Butler vs Xavier. Xavier is currently projected as a 4th seed in the NCAA tournament, but there is always room to move up, and this would not be the time for a letdown. Butler was able to keep Xavier in check in the first meeting this season, holding the Musketeers under 70 points and squeaking out a 69-67 win at home. On the road, however, I don't expect the Bulldogs to have the same kind of defensive success against a Xavier team that just dropped 94 points on number 20 Providence on the road. Xavier is now 4-1 ATS in its last 5 games overall. Butler doesn't have the firepower to keep up with Xavier in this spot. Our team pick is to take Xavier. With Butler's offense failing to reach 60 points scored in conference play as frequently as they have, and the Bulldogs riding a perfect 9-0 to the under run on totals coming into this game, going over this total is not likely to be that popular of a play. After all, why butt heads with significant streaks, right? Well, season finales can bring a lot of odd things with them because of questionable motivational levels with the teams involved. Butler is a team that doesn't mind running when they are called upon to do so, and chances are they'll be chasing a large deficit for the majority of this game. Teams just can't afford to play slow for long periods of time in those instances. Furthermore, it doesn't hurt that I've got Xavier's 7th-ranked Ajo offense playing on the other side, in a building where they are 11-4-1 OU this year, and clearing totals by an average of 4.9 points. The Musketeers also have one less day off since last playing, and with the rest disadvantage, Xavier is 6-2 OU this year, clearing totals by an average of 9.2 points. Never mind not wanting to step in front of a 9-0 under run, Xavier's offense at home is not one I'm looking to step in front of with an underplay either, especially after their last 2 home games were 2 of their 4 under results at home. Butler's offense being so bad actually brings this total for an Xavier home game down a shade too low in my opinion, so as long as Butler can pull their own weight and make this the 8th time in 20 conference games that they score 60+ points, I believe the over gets there. Our total pick is over 142 points. Florida Atlantic vs Louisiana Tech. The Owls have won 6 of their last 7 games and 8 of their last 10 road games. They have played well offensively on the road, scoring more than 75 points per game. They took advantage of their opportunities at the charity stripe in their last 3 games, making over 75% of their free throws. They do a good job finding the open man, and they're very aggressive on the offensive glass, which will give them more scoring chances. They do a good job protecting the ball and won't give the Bulldogs a lot of easy scoring opportunities. The Bulldogs aren't very good defensively, and they're giving up more than 70 points per game at home, so expect them to have a hard time slowing down the Owls in this game. The Bulldogs have lost 6 of their last 7 games and 2 of their last 3 home games. They usually play well offensively, but they struggled in recent games and scored more than 70 points only once in their last 5 games. They don't rebound the ball as well as the Owls and won't get a lot of second-chance scoring opportunities against them. They've also been careless with the ball, which will lead to easy scoring opportunities for the Owls, who average more than 6 steals per game. The Owls are very good defensively, and they played better in their last 3 games, holding their opponents under 65 points per game, so expect them to keep Louisiana Tech's offense in check. Go with Florida Atlantic to cover the spread. Our team pick is Florida Atlantic Owls minus 9.5 points. KenPom's adjusted offensive rating shows that there will be a lot of points in this game, as Louisiana Tech is 162nd in the country with a 106.5 rating, while FAU is all the way up to 26th in the sport with a 115.5 offensive rating so far. Both programs have been shooting the ball well throughout the year as well, with the Owls shooting an outstanding 47.2% from the field, while the Bulldogs are connecting on 44.5% from the floor. The over is 4-1-1 in the last 6 Owls games, as well as in the previous 4 Bulldogs home games, so go with over 143.5 points here as well. Southern Illinois vs Drake. Southern Illinois has to consider itself fortunate that they faced a Missouri State team that isn't great on the offensive end of the floor. If they were, the Salukis may have been blown out of the Enterprise Center in the first half, instead of clawing back into the game. As it was, Southern Illinois nearly threw the game away with several turnovers in the final couple of minutes that got the Bears within striking distance. Drake showed that they can crack the Salukis' defense when the teams met at Drake 3 weeks ago. The Bulldogs hung 82 points in that game, marking the second most points Southern Illinois allowed all season long. Drake had an easier time of things Friday night, and that, plus the confidence from the win last month, gives them the edge in what should be a tight game here. Our team pick is Drake Bulldogs. Both of these teams are strong defensively. Southern Illinois has held opponents to just 42% from the field, and Drake is limiting teams to just 41.2% from the field. Drake has also been a slower tempo team this year. The Bulldogs ranked 215th out of 363 teams in adjusted tempo. The Salukis have been inconsistent on offense against better defensive teams. This should be a lower scoring and slower tempo game. Our total pick is under. Notre Dame vs Clemson. Notre Dame has nothing to play for. The Fighting Irish will enter the ACC Championship tournament as the number 14 seed. On the other side, Clemson desperately needs a big win over Notre Dame. According to Joe Lunardi, the Tigers are on the March Madness bubble and need to impress the committee. Hereof, I'm going with the Tigers to beat a 9-point line. They are a much better defensive team than Notre Dame and will torture the Fighting Irish in the paint. Per Bart Torvik, Notre Dame is 280th in the nation in opposing 2-point percentage, 52.2%. Our team pick is the Clemson Tigers minus 9 points. Notre Dame has scored 80-plus points on 7 occasions now this season, after the win over Pittsburgh earlier in the week, and their OU record following the previous 6 is 1-4-1 OU. This is not an offense that you can confidently trust to be scoring in 2 consecutive games. The Irish averaged just 67.16 points game in those 6 contests, and this Notre Dame team hadn't topped 60 points in the 3 previous games prior to that Pittsburgh win. The Irish are also 3-7 OU this year when coming off a win. Clemson's history off a loss 7-1 OU does counteract it some, as does the Tigers' 9-4 OU record as a home favorite. Clemson's been clearing those totals as a home favorite by 8.8 points on average, and there are a lot of scenarios for how this game plays out where the Tigers may essentially pick their own score. Support is out there for both sides as it usually is, but it's the fact that Notre Dame's average in a post-80-point game is as high as it is at 67.16 points game has me siding with Clemson's history towards the over in this spot. Clemson's players could feel wide open out there against this Irish defense after dealing with what Virginia threw at them last time out, and it's not like the Tigers' own defense has been great of late, giving up 70 or more in 3 straight prior to that Virginia game. Hopefully, in Mike Brey's final regular season game as Notre Dame's head coach, the Irish offense can pull their weight enough to get this one up and over the total. Our total pick is over 143.5 points. Creighton vs DePaul. The Blue Jays are clearly the better team. While 3 games out of the top record in the Big East Conference, they have been extremely efficient this season and beat the Blue Demons by 15, the first time these teams met. In fact, Creighton has won the last 10 meetings between these teams and has won by at least 12 in all but one of those contests. They do not just beat DePaul, they crush them. Odds makers were really close in that first meeting, predicting Creighton by 15.5, and they fell 0.5 points short of that mark. Even on the road, one can expect that the Blue Demons will be decisive underdogs. They were blown out by UConn on Wednesday, but have been close in each of their last 2 games at home, losing in double overtime to St. John's on February 14th and by a single point to Butler 8 days later. If Creighton is favored by more than 8, take the Blue Demons. Our team pick is the Creighton Blue Jays. Looking at the defenses in the last few games, Creighton is allowing 69.5 points in their last 4 games, while DePaul is giving up 79 points in their previous 3 games. The adjusted defensive rating provided by KenPom shows these teams are doing well, as the Blue Jays are 12th in the country with a 93.9 defensive rating, while the Blue Demons are 176th with a 105.8 rating up to this point. The under is 4-0-1 in the Blue Demons' last 5 games against teams with a winning record, as well as in the previous 4 Blue Jays games against teams with a losing record, so go with the under 145.5 points here. Boise State vs Utah State. This was a decisive victory for the Broncos in the first meeting, defeating the Aggies by 23 points. Utah State had arguably their worst shooting performance of the season, hitting 40% of their shots, and were just 6-14 from the free throw line, 43%. Boise State shot 50% from the floor, including 11-19 from three-point range. It was understandable why they came away with the decisive victory. The Broncos have dominated the Aggies in recent years, winning the last 5 meetings between these teams. Utah State has kept some of these games close, but has still not found a way to beat Boise State. While both teams look to solidify their position in the conference tournament, Boise State still has a shot to be the top-ranked team. Look for them to come out with a greater sense of urgency and win this contest. Our team pick is the Boise State Broncos at plus 3.5 points. The total for the first meeting between these teams went over, but I am leaning toward the under in this game. In the first meeting, Utah State struggled, only scoring 59 points, while Boise State went off for 82 points. Look for the Aggies to shoot the rock better at home this time around and play better defense. However, I do not see either team shooting well, since there is a ton of pressure on both teams. Each squad has a good defensive unit, and that will show in this game, as in a low-scoring affair the under is the pick. Take the under 141.5 points. Northeastern vs Delaware. These two sides split the season series, each picking up a win on their home floor. Northeastern won a 59-58 affair back on January 14th, while Delaware bounced back with an 81-78 victory 12 days later. So who comes away with a win, and more importantly the cover, on Saturday? Well, I think the Blue Hens will do enough to win the game and cover the spread. I'm wary of backing Northeastern solely based on their offensive performances over the previous 2 games. They combined for just 100 points in the 2-game sample. Their offense has been an issue all season, scoring just 98.0 points per 100 possessions, 318th. As for field goal percentage, the Huskies are shooting just 41.6%, which is 319th in the country. Now, they're running into a fairly mediocre defense, which I'll dive into below, but I think Delaware does enough defensively to put this game out of reach. They should have no issue keeping the Huskies at bay in this one. Let's ride with the Blue Hens minus the points. Our team pick is Delaware Blue Hens minus 6.5 points. I am going to take the over in this game as well. As I was alluding to, Delaware's defense has been below average this year, so I think Northeastern will be able to put up a decent amount of points in this one. The Blue Hens are just 227th in adjusted defensive efficiency, giving up 107.9 points per 100 possessions. As for defensive shooting, opponents are hitting 44.9% of their shots against them, 232nd. On the flip side, Northeastern isn't much better, sitting at 268, 110.0, and 257th, 45.3% in those respective categories. Furthermore, both programs play at a decent tempo. The Blue Hens are 184th in pace, 67.4 possessions per 40 minutes, while the Huskies are 192nd, 67.2. Look for this to be a moderately paced game, and considering we have 2 subpar defenses, we should see this one go over the total. Mississippi State vs Vanderbilt. For one, you've already got the possibility of a post-big win letdown spot in the works for Vanderbilt after beating Kentucky, and now their statistical strength, offense, is likely going to be negated going up against this Bulldogs defense. I mean, for comparison's sake, Vanderbilt faced Alabama's 5th-ranked Aged and KenPom one spot behind Mississippi State's 4th twice this season, went 0-2 Sioux and Austrian Shillings against the Crimson Tide, scoring 66 points at home and 44 points on the road, losing by 12 and 57 points respectively. Mississippi State's offense is really nothing to drastically fear, so we might not get a double-digit margin of victory, but if the Bulldogs' defense can hold similar form to what a statistically similar team like Alabama did versus Vanderbilt, it will be Mississippi State who gets this cover. Our team pick is Mississippi State minus 2.5 points. The way that Mississippi State's defense ends up executing in this game is going to be the biggest determining factor in where the side and total results land for this game. I've already established that I'm on the side of expecting the Bulldogs' defense to be at least up to their normal capabilities, and if that ends up being the case, then more often than not this game likely goes under the total. Mississippi State is 15-4 to the under when coming off a win this season, and they've stayed under those totals by an average of 7.3 points game. The Bulldogs' last 4 road games have seen them allow 66, 61, 64, and 51 points against, with the first 2 numbers in that list only getting that high thanks to OT. It's a defense I believe you can trust to be at its best on the road, and with all that's at stake regarding the potential future of Mississippi State's season, it will be that defense that helps cash this under ticket.